My favorite story of all time. This happened, gosh, 15 years ago. I was doing a segment called Really Crilley, which was just the lighter side of the news. It was the lighter side of the news. And this is the day after Thanksgiving. So let me tell you what happens on the day after Thanksgiving. We talked about slow news days, right? Every reporter on the planet is lighting candles to the news gods, praying for something to happen so they're not at the mall that day. Right? I remember that was my personal Groundhog Day. You remember Bill Murray and Groundhog Day? That was my personal Groundhog Day because I knew what I was doing on the day after Thanksgiving for the rest of my news career. One of 9 mall reports, right? I could hear myself. Well, that's it from North Park Mall. Let's go live now to James Rose at Stonebriar Mall. James, what's going on at your mall? Well, there's shopping here too, Jeff. So it's the day after Thanksgiving. We're praying for something to happen, and we get a nut call. And I promise you, every station in America gets these crazies that will call in, reporting UFOs and stuff like that. This was really out there. And normally we would have said, call Channel 8. But because I was doing my wacky side of the news segment, they said, hold on, we're going to put you on with Jeff Crilley. So they yell across the newsroom. They say, Crilley, pick up line 1. It's a live one. And I knew what that meant. That meant it was a nut call I was going to have to blow off. So I took this call with great apprehension. And the guy says, my name is Sean Walker. I'm a turkey farmer from Kemp, Texas, about 35 miles southeast of here. And I've got this one turkey that I just didn't have the heart to slaughter. And I said, okay, Sean, that's great. Tell me more about this turkey. What's so special about this turkey? He says, well, the reason I couldn't slaughter this one turkey is because the turkey looks too much like Elvis. I said, how's that? He says, the turkey looks too much like Elvis. I said, Sean, I'm starting to dig you now, but I'm going to have to explain to my bosses how a turkey can possibly look like Elvis to justify this trip to Kemp. Could you explain that to me? He says, well, you know that little flap of skin on the turkey's beak? If you take it and flip it back, it looks like the Elvis hairdo. I was so excited. I said, Sean, you are not to touch a feather on that bird's head till we get down there. So I grabbed a photographer and we start racing to Kemp. Now at this point I made a strategical error because I grabbed the wrong photographer. I grabbed Becky Oliver's photographer. And if you're not from Dallas-Fort Worth, Becky is kind of like Bill O'Reilly and Geraldo's love child, right? This is an investigative reporter who is very scary. She's the one who chases you down the street with the camera saying, stop, stop, we got you on tape. That lady, you don't want to meet her. I used to work with her. I was scared of her. I remember I'd be putting money in the vending machine, and she'd sneak up behind me. She'd say, Jeff, what are you up to? I'd say, stay back, stay back. Okay. Well, her photographer's not normal. This guy spends most of his waking hours in the back of a van spying on workers' comp cheats, right? So he failed to grasp the significance of the Elvis turkey. And I'm trying to explain it to him all the way down to Kemp, why this is the holy grail I've been searching for my entire news career. I said, come on, man, you can't see it. It's the Elvis turkey. He couldn't see it. In fact, come to think of it, he was giving me the same look you guys are giving me right now. So I wish he'd work with me on this. So we get down there. He's giving me such a hard time about this turkey that I'm really, this has got to pay off, right? The payoff's got to be there. So we're walking through the barnyard. We come to this turkey, and Sean points to it with great pride and says, there's Elvis. Folks, this thing looked nothing like the king. I looked at the photographer. He says, Crilley, 3 words. Long ride home. I wasn't giving up on Sean just yet. I said, hold on. Sean, do the little flap with the skin and the beak thing. So he reaches down, he grabs that little flap of skin, he goes, plink. We still don't see it. I look back at the photographer. He's in glee. He says, Crilley, you are never going to live this down. And I knew this was the photographer who was going to lord this over me for the rest of my news career, right? I could hear his voice 10 years in the future. Sure, Jeff, is this going to be another Elvis turkey story? So now I'm shaking. I'm so upset. I said, Sean, work with me, brother. is that Elvis during the younger years or the later years? What are we looking at here? And he says, wait a minute, you haven't heard Elvis sing. I said, wow, Elvis sings. So I turned to the photographer and I said, roll on this, fool. So he grabs both wings and he starts dancing with the bird in the barnyard. He's singing lead, Elvis is singing backup. He says, one for the money, gobble, gobble, gobble. 2 for the show, gobble, gobble, gobble. 3 to get ready now. I told you it was a slow news day. Some of you are looking at me like, see, Jeff, that's why I never watched your channel. So even the photographer who hated this story gives me a big high five. He says, now that was good. He had to admit it was the funniest piece of tape he'd ever recorded. So we get back in the car. We're racing back towards Dallas. The light bulb goes off over my head. I'm thinking, wait a minute. If it's a slow day in Dallas-Fort Worth, I bet it's slow all over the country. I'm calling Fox New York. Well, I was too excited to do this because I start doing bird noises for this guy in New York, and I could hear him cup the phone and shout to Bill O'Reilly, you're not going to believe this. We got a joker on the phone from Dallas. He says he's got a turkey, and how soon can we get it in? I said, it'll be ready in 2 hours. But I didn't stop there because I knew if it's slow at Fox New York, it's got to be slow at CNN and Atlanta. I was right. They were lighting candles all over the South. So I pitched them the same story. They couldn't wait to get it done. I get back to the TV station, and I do the report for Channel 4 Local, and then I do out cues for the networks. Jeff Crilley reporting for Fox News. Jeff Crilley reporting for CNN. True story. Sean and Elvis went global that night. Sean had friends stationed in the Gulf in ships watching him from their bunk on CNN dancing with a turkey. And they called him up that night and they said, Sean, did you have to mention Kemp? But I'm sharing that simple story with you for a reason. Think about this. Sean got lucky. Sean had no clue what he was doing. All he did was tie into several news winds that he didn't know were going on at the same time. He was tying into 2 feeding frenzies, right? The feeding frenzy surrounding Thanksgiving and the feeding frenzy that will eternally be Elvis, right? He's calling on a very slow news day. Who's calling the media on the day after Thanksgiving? Not the government, not corporate America. The journalists were starving. But most importantly, he's talking to the only reporter on the surface of the planet who wouldn't hang up on the clown. And it got global coverage. So here's what I'm saying. If a turkey farmer from Kemp, Texas could get international publicity completely by accident, can't you get local news attention on purpose? Come up with your own Elvis turkey stories and the media will gobble them up. Thank you.